Good morning, everyone. It's good to see all of you. Morning, Madam President. How are you doing?
Doing well. How about you?
I'm good. I like your background. Is that someplace in New Mexico?
It is. It's outside the College of Education.
Is it? Okay. I know I get that. I remember seeing those. Okay.
That's what I've been told, and that's what it looks like. I've walked under there many times.
Many times. Well, good. Good to see you. Commissioner O'Malley, how are you?
Morning, I'm doing fine, thank you. Good morning,
good.
everyone.
Nice to see your smiling face. Councilor Benton, I feel like you and I just hung out just like several hours ago. We had a late council meeting last night, so he might be and then Terry is on as well. And Dr. Z, are you on? Dr. Z, I like your background. I got to tell you, that's probably one of the nicer ones I've seen. No offense, but
it's great to live out here.
I keep thinking I'm going to see a rabbit or a coyote run over across the back of your head there. Councilor Benton, good morning.
Good morning, Lawrence. How are you?
Good. Long time no see, my friend.
I know.
Yeah.
What a marathon. It could have been worse.
Yes, indeed, indeed. Okay, so do we have a quorum, David? Do we have all our, I guess we're missing Julie and
Pat Davis
and Councilor Davis,
excuse me,
right?
and Commissioner Barboa. Unless she...
And Commissioner Barboa is.
She's on the other side. I'm bringing her.
Okay, we're bringing in Commissioner Barboa. If you guys could just give us a minute here. Okay.
So now, yes.
Okay, Commissioner Barboa, good morning. Welcome.
Thank you. Sorry, I had a problem connecting. I don't know if.
That's all right. The point is you're connected now.
Yes.
All right, great. Well, we're going to start this meeting with, as usual, we always call the meeting to order and we go directly to public comment. And so, David, do we have any folks signed up for public comment?
We do not have anyone signed up for spoken comment, but we did receive one written comment that I could read.
Sure. Why don't you have David read that one comment just so you all get the benefit of the comment that was sent in writing. We don't have anyone signed up at this point to on public comments. Go ahead, David.
So this was on June 3rd at 11:42 a.m. from Jesse Harden. Jesse wrote, "Hello, as a resident of the International District living nearby the Gibson facility, I'm writing in support of the Gateway Center. Despite my concern that the city did not listen to most leading local professionals regarding the better and more effective approach of having small scattered sites, the Gateway Center is a good first step in providing support and increased resources for our neighbors on the streets. Furthermore, I advocate for rezoning and increased funding for safe outdoor spaces, sanctioned campsites where our neighbors can safely reside and securely without being moved unnecessarily. Phasing in other smaller specialized centers throughout the city in the coming years would be wonderful. I believe our neighbors experiencing homelessness are already over-policed, and that is what is needed: more mental health, recovery, housing support, and not more punitive approaches. Housed and unhoused residents of the city can live as neighbors in the community. We need to not live in fear of our neighbors without homes." Jesse Harden.
Okay, so that was the one written comment. Anyway, with that being said, the mayor will be here shortly, so we want to get the meeting started so we can get to all the conversation and discussions that we have this morning. So we'll introduce by going over the agenda. Any additions or amendments to the agenda as it's been sent to you all? Commissioner Barboa?
Thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to, I have an announcement that I have my proxy or my alternate. I believe she's online on the back end or whatever, but Irene Monje, I wanted to just announce that Irene Monje is my alternate. She has years of experience working as a licensed counselor with folks that have experienced homelessness. She's worked at UNMH and at Albuquerque Healthcare for the Homeless, and she's also just a wonderful community leader and advocate. So I'm excited that she'll be, and I actually think she brings stronger knowledge about these issues than I do. So I'm thankful to have her. And I see that she's on. I don't know if you could turn on your video, Irene. Or if you want to say a hello, take off your mute.
Thanks, Commissioner. Irene, are you connected? Have we let her?
You're on mute, Irene, if you are talking.
Oh,
Here I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
we can hear you now, Irene. Good morning.
I'm new at this. So I'm glad to be here. Thank you, Adrienne, for introducing me. And I do have a lot of experience. I have worked with the crisis response team at Healthcare for the Homeless. I've also worked in the PET team, which is a psychiatric emergency team in Los Angeles, and the SCAM team, which is suspected child abuse and neglect team in Los Angeles. But that's kind of a little bit of my background. I'm a counselor, a master's in counseling, but I'm retired right now.
Thank you.
Commissioner Barbeau, if I might, do we have contact information so that we can make sure that Irene, as your designee, is on our mailing list, et cetera? If you could, maybe Irene, or if you could send that. Normally what we get is a commissioner's note to the, in this case, the chair, saying this is my alternate, this is the contact information, and here's where you can send all of that. That would be great. My assumption is that Irene does not work for the county. Is that right?
Right.
She's retired right now.
Okay, very good. Well, that would make it easier for us to make sure we keep Irene in the loop on all the things that we're doing. So thank you very much for that.
Will do. And thank you so much, Irene. I can send that information and I'll CC you. And just thank you for being a part and willing to add your time and service.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thanks, Irene. Okay, with that being said, we did have, before we go to the, we do have one person who is logged in that'd like to make a public comment. And so, David, would you please introduce and have.
Yeah, Mr. Hoffman, you'll have a minute and a half, sir. He should be in.
Right there.
Will, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can hear you now. Go ahead. You got a minute and a half, sir.
I didn't request the opportunity, but I am interested in the issue safe outdoor spaces, and to hear what's going on and the latest update from the previous meeting with the county and the plans there.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hoffman. There is an agenda item on safe outdoor spaces that we will be touching, having a conversation here as we move through the meeting. So stay tuned and we'll hopefully at least provide you some additional information. Thank you very much for signing up. Okay, well then, that being said, if we can go back to our approval of the agenda, we need a motion for approval. Moved by Commissioner O'Malley by the raise of hand, and I'll second that. All those in favor of the agenda as proposed signify by waving your hand, if you will, or saying aye. Okay, thank you very much. We'll consider the agenda approved. So we now have concluded our public comment portion of our meeting. And if we can go to the approval of the minutes of May the 11th. I hope you all have had a chance to review the minutes, and if you have, we would need a motion to approve the minutes. Commissioner Barboa makes a motion. Do we have a second? Commissioner O'Malley seconds that. All those in favor of the minutes, please raise your hand. All right, all the minutes have been approved as well. So we will now get into some of the conversation that I know that you all want to have, and that we want to update you all on what's happening at the Gibson Health Center otherwise formerly known as the Gibson Medical Center. And I think that's really an important piece. For now, we're going to start pivoting to calling it a health center as opposed to the medical center, simply because obviously, as we move forward, it's much more than just a medical center as we know from before. But with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Carol. Is that yours?
I think
Or
it's
it's Doug.
Doug, but of course, since you gave me the chance, no, Doug has a great update today. So, and really, we're so grateful that Doug is over there, boots on the ground at the Gibson Health Center. The reason we keep putting the Health Hub on the agenda, I know it's been on there for the last 3 meetings, but we just think it's definitely resonating in our community meetings. I'll give that update a little bit later. But boy, is it important that we continue to embrace that just big picture that this is a health hub, and that so many of our community members are telling stories about what's happened in that facility for them, both beautiful moments, births of children, and the passing of loved family members. So just to hold that vision as a health hub, of which then a slice of that will also be for our unhoused neighbors, I think just is really serving us all well as a homeless coordinating council. So I just wanted to say that, and I'll pass it to Doug.
Thank you, Carol. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, a lot of great things going on at GMC. Just to tag on to what Carol was talking about in terms of the health hub, it's very important to the city of Albuquerque that we maintain the presence of the existing health providers that we have at the facility. Many of you have been there and you've seen the presentation. 6 of our 10 providers are related to the health industry. 4 of them are directly related to behavioral health and recovery issues. And we find it important that we continue to work with local partners to attract additional health services by way of either primary care providers, additional behavioral health services, and other outpatient type care that is needed in that area. And I've talked a little bit about the tenants connection to our vision for the health hub. But with Turquoise Lodge there, with our substance abuse recovery program, we've been having some really good conversations with Shauna, the executive director at that facility. We're actually inviting her to help us vision on our some of our operating ideas. There's some direct opportunities there for folks that are both entering into that recovery and coming out of that recovery, but we can provide possibly places for people to stay in both directions, so that they're non-housed, they're not returning to the street. You have Haven Behavioral Health, which has acute behavioral health inpatient care up on our 4th floor, working with some of Albuquerque's most needy folks that are experiencing some extreme psychiatric conditions, and they're doing a great job, and we very much need them. We want to keep them connected to what we're doing as well. And then we have Zia Cares, which is a for-profit behavioral health service that's expressed a strong interest in tying into what we're doing at GMC as well. So let me stop for a minute, take a little bit of a breath, and see if there's any questions so far.
Commissioner Barboa?
Yeah, I just more of a comment, I guess, that I just both thank you for reminding us, Doug, of all the multiple services, and thank you, Carol, for bringing me in. We had a bit of a planning for the input meeting, and I think that really, even in that smaller meeting, and I feel like I've been feeling this myself, and even in talking with community or other, I was at Endorphin Power Company, and I do think and I feel like maybe Carol got the message yesterday too, right? That the mayor's office, while we want to solicit input in these income to really determine what this space looks like, I think it really is important that there's one message that comes out of the mayor's office that is really clear that this is a health, at least that's what I've heard from the mayor, and that we should confirm it with a really solid statement that this is a health hub that is not just a shelter. Because I think it's just, that's what first thing I hear from even the closest of providers, that they just, and community all the time, but even providers and folks that are sort of closer to it are still just feeling like they need to hear that affirmation that this isn't a 600-person shelter, right? Or so while I totally appreciate and want us to have those community input sessions, I do think there needs to be like a solid way that everybody, providers, community members can really take this in as like, we are committed to this being a health hub that has multiple opportunities for our communities. And so just those comments. I think even yesterday, and Carol can tell you more, but right, like there was 6 of us in the room that should be knowing a little bit more. And it felt like all of us still had 6 different scenarios that we would point to about this, what this could be. And so I just wanted to be clear and be able to be an ambassador for the work.
Yeah, makes sense. Good input.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Other questions for folks? All right, Doug, we'll keep going. I know we've got some more. Yeah.
Thanks, Mayor. So on the next steps, a little bit of an update on our architectural. We continue to work very closely with Mullen Heller, our architect, for the gateway, the sheltering piece of it, looking at various different scenarios of sheltering space, social service provision, space to provide social services on site. That includes really what's the entry point, the large entry door, the intake. What does that look like? How do folks come into the shelter? What services will be available there, and specifically where we can locate those types of services in the facility itself. And so that is moving forward. I think we're making some fairly good progress in those particular areas, and it's kind of exciting to start putting some things to paper a little bit and just, penciling them out and sketching them out and getting some ideas. So that is moving forward. We continue to work with our facilities team of DMD in our evaluation and complete understanding of the complex mechanical systems that are involved in supporting a health hub like this, where we actually have 3 functioning hospitals on site, as well as our additional providers. And so, we continue to learn a little bit more every day in that area. We're working to make the systems work better, more efficiently, and serve our tenants in the best way possible. We've had a pretty strong interest in some providers that are interested in expanding to the Gibson Health Hub, from some of the existing providers that are on site. Zia Cares has expressed an interest in expanding into the main building. They're currently in an outbuilding and providing services in there, and to the folks that are in the shelter and those that are in the community as well. I mentioned Turquoise Lodge earlier, and they've expressed an interest in expanding their engagement with our shelter folks, as well as others from the community. We recently went on a tour with a federally qualified health center that is very interested in provider space, primary care space, and a pharmacy in the location, and we're working back and forth with them. And I think those are the big provider interest levels we've had so far.
Is UNM comes in?
It's taken.
UNM.
Oh,
Are they?
yeah.
The county.
UNM.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Madam President, I know that at one point, Tom Neal had said that maybe the university and/or Dr. Z, that the university might be interested in looking at some space there. I don't know if we've had an opportunity to set up a meeting with you all to get a tour of that or to talk about that, but just put that marker out there that we're happy to have you all come out and look at that.
Thank you. I don't think that that's actually been formally set up, but we'll definitely, I'll get with Doug Z and Tom Neal, and we'll figure something out soon. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Looking forward to it.
And then we had a very good tour with the county with Maurice Baca and with
Margarita.
and Margaret. Well, Margarita didn't make it, but we had the fire chief as well. And I think that was a really good opportunity to take a look at the space. And I look forward to some of your ideas, County Manager, going forward on as we came out of that space. I know that you guys were excited and had some thoughts, and we're going to be working with your network system as well. So looking forward to furthering that engagement as well.
All right, Commissioner Barboa.
Just wanted to ask if your Doug are actively recruiting folks, and I mean, just from the model we've seen from like Casa de Salud or Dr. Zeller, like providing traditional non-Western medicine, like acupuncture, chiropractor, those type of providers that could, be an additional support to the varying needs of those communities. And even, with recreational cannabis on the upcoming, like medical cannabis, is it a little bit like the medical integrity of cannabis is a little bit under threat? And I think that there's local providers that would be interested in having just a medical cannabis part of that. I wouldn't say the recreational, but I think that there are, like, I know our Greenleaf is really worried about the medical integrity of medical cannabis and its use as medicine. So just saying if there's recruitment going on.
Commissioner Barboa and members of the council, what we've been trying to do so far is just basically get a sense of those that are in the space, right, the current tenants, and then looking at our partners that are in this group, a university and the county, to get their needs addressed before we go out and actively recruit for others to come into the system, simply because we want to make sure that it is a health hub, but that the providers and the relationships that we built with each other through this council, that we're able to provide the space that hopefully, the county would need, if you will, to provide behavioral health care, if you will, going forward, or that the university might need as it relates to, to any kind of a medical respite facility, et cetera. So we've not, actively gone out to look for other for member or for growth groups that might be interested in providing those services. But I would say to you and to anyone that's listening to the call, that if there are folks out there that are interested, certainly giving Doug a call, and would be more than happy to have a conversation. And as we start solidifying the space for the facility, that we would look at other spaces that might be available. Keep in mind, it's 572,000 square feet. So there is going to be enough space, but we want to make sure that we take care of our primary providers, and then look at any other commercial space that we might be able to, to help with folks like the folks you talked about. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you touched on a little bit, Lawrence, as far as the respite services. I'll be putting out a request for interest early in July for respite care providers. We believe that we have some space that can be made ready in relatively short order. And so we want to go out and assess the level of interest in a provider for a space like that. We actually have a couple spots that we can take a look at and get going on fairly quickly. We're kind of looking forward to that and some feedback from our providers to get that going. So I think those are my updates, and you were going to talk a little bit about.
I think I'm on community input, which includes the last item. If you
All
want me
right.
to go ahead.
Well,
Or
anything
whenever.
else on space? Not outer space.
Although
And
that's,
Mayor, let me just chime in on one little piece of this, if you don't mind. For the facilities committee, particularly Councilor Benton and Commissioner O'Malley, as we move forward with the architectural work that's being done out there, we'll present some of that information, hopefully at our next facilities meeting, so you can begin to get a flavor for what portions of the building are being considered by our architects for the shelter component, what portion of the building are going to be available for other uses, et cetera. And, we don't want to get into all the little details, but certainly to give you all a sense of how we see the facility being utilized. And equally as important, where we see the, if you will, the entry points into the system as it relates to, where do we have folks that from the community coming in for community services, as Commissioner Barboa described, for general, services for the community of that part of the city, but where we also see the entry point into the facility for our shelter, if you will, folks. And then most importantly, what are we doing as it relates to the front of the building, as it relates to the street appearance, et cetera. So we'll have that more information for our facilities meeting as we move forward, as the architects, come together on their assessment of the building. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Carol. Go ahead.
I want to, as I begin my update on community input, really want to thank Doug and Leon. As many of you mentioned today, they're doing a lot of tours. And it really, I think, is helping people celebrate the largeness of the space and the opportunities. And County Manager Morgus Baca, we had our monthly county city meeting where we coordinate on many, many things. And it was just highlighted again that really was helpful to see the space. And so with that learning that we've had, just seeing is believing, we did get a video done yesterday of the tour that we will be using at our community meeting coming up. Since we really don't want to we really want to honor the patients that are there, their privacy, and so we've got a video that will be part of our PowerPoint as I give you this update for our upcoming community meeting. But let me just kind of start with all that's been happening, neighborhood association meetings. So to date, we have met with 4 of the 5 neighborhoods that directly surround Gibson Medical Center, and the 5th one being a really good meeting with the District 6 leadership. So we did meet with Parkland Hills on April 27th, with Trumbull Neighborhood Association on April 28th. The District 6, all that leadership representing all the Southeast Heights area on May 17th. South San Pedro, our meeting was May 19th. And Elder Homestead, the most recent one, was last week, June 3rd. So in addition, and I know we've had a lot of feedback from the HCC, we have been, whether it's been tours or meeting individually with different elected officials, schools, service providers, and as Doug mentioned, the tenants of the Gibson Health Center. So one of the things that we're really excited about, and we're really grateful to Commissioner Barboa and her enthusiasm and knowledge. She mentioned that yesterday we did have a meeting of our D6 representatives, District 6, as well as service providers coming from our service provider committee, and that are part of the International District. And so it was a very robust meeting, and our intention was to really get feedback, to talk with them as we're moving forward together. We learned a lot. We're having another meeting tomorrow we're incorporating that feedback all as we move forward toward this next set of community meetings. But we envision that team, and I want to thank Erin Engelbrecht as well. She's our city co-chair of the services committee and will be with us moving forward to help us with these ongoing D6 service provider meetings. Because as we go forward, and as Doug says, as we get maybe more ideas and decisions on where services might go, we want the people, the boots on the ground that provide services to really provide input and guidance. So really grateful that that meeting was kicked off yesterday and is a really great group. I also want to add that the Mental Health Advisory Committee, MRAC, who's a really good community partner, is they're part of the services committee and they're part of those discussions as well. So what we've got coming up this week is we are going to have 2 community meetings, one on Thursday, June 10th, and that we are doing via Zoom to honor those that want to Zoom in. And then we'll be doing one on Saturday, June 12th at Gibson Medical Center. I would say roughly between those two meetings, we've probably got about 60 people. We anticipate having a lot more people attending. And at these meetings, we are going to zoom in, I guess, literally and figuratively, on 3 aspects of our operational plan. And we are thinking, again, broad health hub, of which a slice of that is also Gateway. And we're really thinking about both of those as we move forward in these community input sessions. We'll be talking about safety and security. We'll be talking about entrance and exits. And we'll be talking about the overnight, both Health Hub and Gateway. And I will say, I think one of our challenges, it's a balancing act, is as we put edges around this and as we all learn from each other and from our partners, we don't want to get so far out ahead that we can't really hear the community input, take that input and guide us. So it's a balancing act as we create these agendas to make sure that there's room for that community input as we go forward. So we'll be focusing on those 3 aspects of the operational plan. And I should add that we also are sharing what I call the broad table of contents for the operational plan is for the Gibson Health Hub. To RSVP for those meetings, in fact, I bet I can get David's help to put this in the chat. It is cabq.gov/unhoused. And we are asking people to RSVP since we have to work on our breakout rooms for Zoom, which is a logistical piece, as well as really honoring how we invite people into the Gibson space on Saturday, wanting to be respectful of the clients that are currently being served there. So we're really encouraging people to RSVP at that cabq.gov/unhoused. The directions and parking information for that in-person meeting on Saturday will be coming out soon. And then we're also just, again, working to really stay in compliance with, current public health practices. Even though we know all of that is loosening, we're really walking into that very mindfully. So I think that is the full update on community input and neighborhood outreach. And I would welcome any questions.
Questions from the group on that process? Sure, Councilor Benton.
Yeah, just thank you, Mayor and Carol. Just to clarify, so when we talk about respite beds, is that considered part of the health hub?
Councilor Benton, yeah, thank you. Great question. It is part of the health hub. Yes,
Okay.
That's the
Yeah,
easy.
just wanted to be clear, the demarcation. I know that, there's a lot of talk about the size of this, and I wish Councilor Davis were here to discuss what he's thinking about that. But the last I heard, just if you could confirm, we're talking about shelter beds currently, at least, I guess this is what the architects are looking at, 150 or thereabouts shelter beds, possibly 175. Is that the latest?
Councilor Benton, I know we've had those numbers, but we're trying to be very open.
Yeah.
We do know that whatever we do, we want to start small and thoughtfully. Because we want to start small and thoughtfully, get our rhythm down, get the processes so it's a success for everybody involved, and then build from there. And so we will be assuring and talking with our community partners this week about separate spaces. I know, even, people are concerned, are we mixing men and women? Or, those kinds of very smart questions. But we do want to start small and thoughtfully.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, just not to be putting you on the spot, but yeah, that is a big part of everything that's being discussed now. And I support there. Obviously, you know, there's got to be some scale. We just don't have the resources of clinicians and everything else for there not to be some scale. And so we've got to have that discussion. And some of what I'm hearing, that we would just have small shelters all over town. That would be great if we had a lot of behavioral health professionals in town, right? And I had this discussion with CNM recently, and I appreciate what they're doing and what Highlands is doing and all, but we've got to start somewhere. And I just not to belabor, but I just got off a call this morning with downtown stakeholders and the downtown public safety folks, and they feel that the businesses are starting to open up, but they feel overrun, by people on the street who are, they're having an episode. They're to me, behavioral health, and I think to most people, behavioral health includes mental illness, but also addiction. They're both in that category, and I'm glad. I should not open this up. We should put this on the agenda, I hope, and maybe discuss it again with Dr. Z, especially in the room. And this is the right group to discuss what we do with that, because there's always been this confusion between, well, they're just homeless, or no. I mean, the majority of homeless people have some behavioral health issues, and they may be current and they may be severe when they're out in the street. And how do the police and how do everyone respond to that? So, thanks.
Councilor Benton, I so appreciate your thoughtful comments. And I wanted to say just a couple things. Couldn't agree more. And I think part of what we're all trying to do collectively is to build empathy for our unhoused neighbors, because one size does not fit all and one story does not meet the needs of all people. And so I'm glad you brought that up. We are really trying to get our unhoused neighbors to participate in our community meetings. As I look back to our very large gathering at the convention center in December of 2019, I think that's why that was so successful, because we had neighbors who have houses and we had neighbors who don't have houses interacting together. And that helps us understand each other better. So I really appreciate that. And then I also realized I left off one of my updates. So not only these 2 community meetings this week, we're having our conditional use facilitated meeting on June 22nd. And we consider the 5 meetings I mentioned earlier that happened in April, May, and June, these ones coming up this week, all part of that conditional use process. It's all about getting the input, getting good dialogue, and getting good information as we move forward on that process. So I want to make sure I added that. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Carol. Okay, let's see here. I think we're gonna move on to our UNM Research Interest Institute. And so let's see who's on cue for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everybody. Thought I'd give you a quick update on this. I think everyone, so last meeting that I wasn't able to attend because it was conflicted with our Board of Regents meeting. And I appreciate Vice President Assata Zarai making the report. And I saw in the minutes what a detailed report it was. I don't want to repeat some things that this group may already be aware of. But as you know, Janet Page Reeves, our homelessness research task force lead, she met with the Homeless Services Committee last Tuesday to talk about the research related to neighborhood impact of shelters, and got some extra input on the approach that's being taken and more insight into the purpose. So we're recognizing just how critical these issues are and wanting to be sure that we're staying connected and what we're focused upon, or what our task force is focused upon. We have identified funding support, and the task force is continuing to fill some hiring needs related to the team that's going to be working on this and will be working on it. One of the things about being in higher ed is we have graduate students, they kind of come and go to different positions. So there's a little bit of churn there, but that's to be expected. That's why we have these other key leaders that really provide the stability for the work that we're doing. The team has been meeting with the New Mexican Coalition in Homelessness to discuss that homeless management information system, and still in the process of attaining access to that. So hopeful about how quickly we can get that resolved. Work is also underway with our Human Resource Protections Office. This work involves human subjects issues then, and so some of this is going to inform the submission that needs to be made to IRB. The Community Impact Group team includes a lead that's a postdoc and a PhD candidate that's doing a lit review. And then we have a graduate student intern that's working on the project as well. And they're all at work with the project. We've added another faculty member to co-facilitate the community listening sessions from Community and Regional Planning. So hopefully all of this will be neatly coordinated as we go forward. And that pretty much is the summary of where things have been since the last meeting.
All right, thank you, President. Questions on this item? Okay, very good. Appreciate the work and the update on that. And so what we do need to do is Lawrence lost a filling last night because City Council was so rough on him. And so he's got to go to the dentist. So we're going to jump just to our other facilities item. And talk about safe outdoor spaces. I know that was coming up in just a minute. So why don't we begin? You know, this is obviously an idea that we really want to move on and are interested in. And I know appreciate the county kind of taking the lead on the operations. So who wants to start with that? Lawrence? Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor, and Councilor Benton, because I have strong feelings for the council that all happened last night. But anyway, first and foremost, the facilities, these are all our committee updates. So the facilities committee met on Friday, had a really good presentation by a group or an individual that Commissioner O'Malley actually brought to the table, if you will, to talk about some innovative things that are happening out there in the safe outdoor space world as it relates to actual, if you will, facilities that might be available for us to consider as we move in this direction. And so, Commissioner, I want to let you know that we all looked at that and had a very good meeting. And you know what they presented actually, and Councilor Benton and I sort of were on the call, talked about how efficient and quickly you can put these facilities up, if you will. They're not quite like tents, if you will, that like we see along some of the public right of way. These are much more, if you will, durable shells. Maybe that's a bad way of describing it, but long and the short of it, it's a temporary housing platform that we should consider as we move forward in this area. But having said that, we also, I know that Commissioner O'Malley wanted to give us an update on some of the work that the county is doing on this safe outdoor space, and so Commissioner, I'll turn it over to you to talk about it and go from there.
Thank you, Lawrence. And you know, we've got of course Commissioner Barboa and also our manager if they want to add anything. I just wanted to be clear on something because you know we've talked about the county taking the lead. As a government agency, I see us as taking the lead in a support role, but actually taking the lead is we have really working with a faith-based group. They're taking the lead. So the idea is to be in a support role, both the city and the county, once we get a really fleshed out proposal from a group of folks. And we've been in conversation with them, and they're working very hard on putting together a proposal. And until that you know time, you know, until we get something, you know, I think it's very. We've asked, you know, the questions and we've gotten things fleshed out. That then I think that can come forward and start the process of looking at, you know, the budget and what are we talking about in terms of operations and capital, you know, dollars to set something like this up. So that's really where we are right now, and we're definitely in a support role there in terms of helping with that proposal helping them to flesh out those details. That's basically the update there. So regarding the pallet shelters idea, I had seen this, actually someone who is in the field sent me a article that was in the LA Times about this company that had put together helped put together a small, well, they're calling them villages. I mean, this is a big upgrade from a tent. That's what these outdoor spaces have in, for example, Denver, and we're going to go see that project next month. Several of us are going to see that on the county side. Mostly it's about, operations and structure and how really things are structured. I mean, the units themselves are these ice tents, and that's a big step up from some other tents. But the pallet shelter particular model is just a cleaner model. It's easier to clean. Those kinds of things that would come up, I think. And then I think visually, it's a nicer looking model. So on that note, tomorrow, on their way to Texas, pallet shelters will be coming into town at 3 o'clock. They'll set up 3 of their units. I work with Tom Neal and State University. They're gonna have a parking lot. They're gonna set up a presentation on the corner of I think it's Cesar Chavez and University. They'll have 3 units there from 3 to 6, and want to make sure that folks know about that so they can go out and see them. The representatives from the company will be there to talk about them, answer any questions, that sort of thing. It's an opportunity for folks to get a visual and to really look at them close up. So they'll be here tomorrow from 3 to 6. I did notify the Journal about it, and I think they wanted a story about it. But as Lawrence was saying, this is, people are just becoming, all cities are looking at innovative ideas around this issue. How do you deal with the most pressing issue, which is folks who have in the encampments or people who are sleeping on the street, or those immediate issues? How do we deal with those? And that's one of the ideas behind Safe Outdoor Spaces, is that this is a way for folks to move from encampments into these safe, secure places. So that's basically it. And David, I don't know if you had a copy of the location you were going to put up.
Thanks so much, Commissioner. Yeah, and we're going to try and type some of this info in the chat box and whatnot. And we do have your flyer here, which is great. And very exciting. So we'll take a look at that, and also just love the all of the above approach. And just a quick question on were there still plans for some staff or others to visit Denver to just kind of on site?
Yeah,
I'm seeing
Julie, did you want to talk a little bit? Yeah.
Of course. So of course, Mr. Mayor. Yes, so we reached out to Lawrence. Let's see, I'm trying to think. And also, I believe there's a couple of city councilors, but I know that we reached out to staff and to see if they would like to attend with us, and we gave them the dates. It's just so hard. You probably know this with everybody's schedule. So we went ahead and we offered the date. I think it's July, I want to say 15th or something like that.
13th and 14th, I think.
13th and 14th. Yeah. And Carol too. So yeah.
Can't wait.
So yeah, so hopefully you all can come with us, and we're happy to help in any way that we can to make sure you guys can attend with us.
Yeah, we're excited. In. Yeah. So we're in. I'm gonna go in August for scheduling reasons, but city team is in. So thanks for setting that all up, and we'll look forward to what we can learn there. Okay, and then just on our appreciate you the clarity on. We're really excited about the potential for the lead on these outdoor spaces from the faith-based community. And so on that, so they're working on a proposal to kind of come back. So that's where the ball is right now. Okay, I see heads nodding. Sounds good. Okay, and is there a way, if we want to, like, if there are other faith-based groups that are interested, I know we've done some outreach and there's been some others, but is there a point of contact we can put in the chat box to connect with? What would everyone recommend?
I know that we've got someone who reached out to us, and you're aware of who that is, Carol, an individual, and I think Kelly's trying to set up a meeting with this person.
Yeah, more for the public. So if they're interested, is there a email set up or anything that they can inquire about, or should they just call, I don't know, Margarita or something? I'm not sure who's.
You know, if you want to direct the calls to my assistant, Kelly Sanchez.
Okay.
That's K.E. Sanchez at burnco.gov, and then she can work with the city folks to,
Awesome.
talk.
Okay, sounds good. All right, other items on safe outdoor spaces? Or other questions, comments? Okay, all right, well, Lawrence, go get that filling fixed. All right, thanks so much. So we'll go back to kind of our regular order, but the item we had next was youth housing continuum, and a little bit on our youth shelter white paper work.
Yeah,
Carol, you
and
want to start?
again, well, we're very grateful, and we've got Asada who needs to come into the room, as well as Jennifer Scacco, a wonderful county partner, Asada from UNM. Of course, we think all the committees are on fire in a good way, not like the smoke today. I mean, just really passionate about these topics. And the youth housing continuum is a beautiful example of that. And so with the agenda, you received the white paper that they've worked hard on the need for a young adult shelter. And so hope everybody got a chance to take a look at that. And I think we want to hand it to Asada and Jennifer.
Thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen here. All right, so we're excited to share our report with you today. The co-chairs of the Youth Housing Continuum Committee are here with me, Jennifer Scacco from Bernalillo County, as well as Nasha Torres from UNM. And as you know, we were charged with looking for solutions to address housing insecurity and housing needs of young people ages 18 to 25, and to map out and enhance the system of care and housing for young people. And so this is one of our high impact strategies that we're presenting to you today. We do need to acknowledge Quinn Dane, who was the former co-chair of this committee. We're really indebted to her for her leadership and input, and she actually drafted the white paper that I'm presenting today. And so the Youth Housing Continuum Committee has identified several system-wide gaps and needs, including the need for a shelter for young adults. Estimates are that over 1,500 people who experience homelessness on any given night. 45 are young people ages 18 to 24, but we know that those estimates very much underreport the extent of homelessness among young people, given that they experience homelessness differently than chronically homeless adult populations. And they have been historically difficult to count. In fact, at the University of New Mexico, we just completed a needs survey. Last year, 2% of our students were homeless in the past year. In the survey that was collected last April 2020, this April 2021, that percentage has jumped up to 12%. And so those people aren't counted in that 45 that I just shared. So the proposed high impact strategy is the emergency shelter for transition aged youth. The maximum length of stay at the shelter would be 30 days with exit planning beginning at entry. And we recommend that it is a small shelter of only 10 to 20 beds, which would allow for trauma-informed environment. It would allow for specialized services and safety and quiet that we know is really necessary developmentally for youth in this age range. In terms of the shelter design, we really think it should focus on young adults' developmental stage and needs. So the structure would support individuation, brain development, and healthy risk taking as recommended in the best practices in the literature. In terms of design features, access to basic needs, including 24/7 bed, meals, food, etc., as you see on the slide. Albuquerque community safety and first responder drop-off point should be available. Storage space, both day-to-day and up to 30-day storage options for youth. Medication management. Indoor and outdoor recreation space is really important and a part of trauma-informed care. A computer lab, a mailing address for those temporary residents, as well as accommodation for pets. In terms of the philosophy and approach, it's really about meeting youth where they are, which I think is pretty exciting. So individualized support to target needs. The goal, of course, is to exit those individuals from the system permanently, to provide an approach that's based on engagement. So not just a bed to sleep in, not just resources, but really connecting with the youth where they are so that they can trust us enough to take advantage of the resources that are available. Care coordination is also important, as well as behavioral health services, of course, employment and education support, life skills classes, and culturally and spiritually accommodating and affirming space. So in conclusion, with these recommendations, it is the hope of the Youth Housing Continuum Committee that the HCC will consider funding this innovative and one-of-a-kind facility. We don't have one like it in Albuquerque or in the state currently. And funding this opportunity could be life-changing for Albuquerque's most vulnerable young people through an intentional and thoughtful approach to meeting their needs and helping them exit the system and experience successful lives in the future. And then our final slide is just some of the references that we referred to. So I'll stop sharing. Nasha, oh, I guess I'm the only one here. Oh, there you are, Jennifer. Jennifer, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
I didn't. Thank you so much, Asada. You did a great overview, and I think the committee members do have the white paper, the full white paper that was sent to them, but we hit all the components, and I think, we've had a lot of good discussions with the service providers too about how funding this and having this type of facility could really create a hub and spoke model for all the services that are available in the youth continuum, as well as address some of the needs that university students are experiencing and young people are experiencing. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Asada and Jennifer. Oh.
Well, I just wonder if there's any questions. I know, Dr. Z, this is something you're very passionate about from your experience, but just this is such great work. And Asada, I do appreciate the presentation, appreciate the acknowledgement of Quinn, who feels very passionate about this. So just wondering if any of the council members have questions.
Yeah, I don't have questions, but I do also want to comment, Carol, and thank you, Asada, for the presentation, because I could see Quinn's thinking on this as well, her approach, and which is very, just, an approach I think that's just very healthy and very compassionate, really, for a group of folks who she's had experience, with, and I think that's the right approach. So I was very pleased with the report. And I think if either the county, the city, or the nonprofits are going to attempt this is a great way to move forward. Really is. Thank you.
Just wanted to add the really terrific presentation and great white paper. And I think this really helps us a lot in getting some structure with then thinking of next steps. So really great work.
Thank you. Julie's hand is up.
I agree. I totally agree with your approach. I love it. I love the energy and the enthusiasm, and I can just tell you guys have really dug deep. Have you guys, I think I asked you this before, have you been in contact with YDI, that organization, Amistad? Yeah, that's what I figured. Okay, awesome. Yeah, you guys are smart. So anyway, thank you. Good job.
Go ahead, Carol.
Well, I wanted to propose that I think Commissioner Barboa had her hand up for me.
Commissioner?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for this research. I definitely know Quinn to be in community and doing the good deal. I do, just to sort of Julie Morgas Bacas, I think where she was going with the question, right? Like it just, right, this sounds like all the youth services that we currently have, and that the difference is the age. So when it just hits me when we say one of a kind, not because we don't want to be one of a kind, but because there's actually functioning services that have done this for over decades, right? Including Amistad and other. So I just want to, like, I think the nuance is the age and knowing that there's a population that is dropped from services, and that it's not like we're not doing a new thing, we're doing an extension of a thing. So not to belittle the work that's gone into this at all, but just to name it, because I also think, like, part of what, for me, the experience in all of the homeless coordinating council stuff has been, right, is that we're constantly, we have to really just intently think of what need we're serving. Like, I was around and I worked in transitional living and with the homeless youth shelters that are, or whether we're a shelter or we're a transitional living, like those are all the nuances. And right, there used to be this nonprofit called Youth in Transition. And it was just like this woman, and it was a little bit chaotic, but it was also a place that had no need for recruitment because young people knew it to be a safe place, that they had reliable people. I would say that the care there wasn't what we would want to get behind because there's real liability. But when we're talking about, like, it just like we're always trying to solve a problem that maybe we can't solve, like for folks that are using and on the streets and would more likely be, like, I just want us to name who it is servicing, right? So that there's not this same kind of expectation, like, oh, those 45 youth that are on the street, we might be capturing folks before they get on the street with this kind of approach, and not necessarily the folks that are already on the street. So just to name some of those things, and name that we have folks like us, like YDI and UDAY have been providing almost this, at least what this looks like, the presentation, exact services, just not to the population after 19.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for those clarifications. And those are some of our close partners in writing the white paper. So we really lean on their expertise and their knowledge. So thank you so much.
Whoever, I'm pretty sure if I can ask a question, Mr. Chair, for Commissioner. So what you're saying is the difference, this sort of model is something that's we've been doing for a long time. It's just that we're talking about a group, an age group that we haven't talked to before. Are we also talking about, like, the other group, sheltered youth? Or?
Yes.
I don't know anything about that area, to be honest with you. I don't know anything about the services in that area. So I was like, well, what is out there? And I just thought, well, maybe we don't have anything, and thus here's the proposal. But you're saying really for this age group, we at this point, so I'm clear, we don't have services like that.
Right.
And I would just add, if I could, that, right, there's folks that there's at least a lot of funding or concern for people under 18. There's not a lot of services that comes from federal dollars mostly, and it's hard to get. And but there is definitely a lot more concern and resources that go towards people under 18 because they're still minors. But once folks reach 18, they don't have that. And then we often say, okay, well then go to the shelter where they're dealing with, like explained in the presentation, maybe chronically homeless, chronically ill folks. And so that catching that gap is huge, where that point where people are and can possibly stop from going into the long-term homelessness. But it does, right, when we're, I think I just want to like acknowledge that, because there's all these different silos, and as we soon decide, okay, we're addressing this gap, and there's other gaps, obviously, but right, and the only reason why I say yes, we've been providing almost this exact services in our city and county for decades, but that this population hasn't got it. But they're also, and I just name out because you know, saying that 30 days is a shelter, it's not a transitional living or even really a long-term plan. And because we don't actually have housing that those folks could move into that are long-term housing, it usually, like saying that we could do this for their lifetime is also a hard thing to just hear, right, in the reality of it. But oftentimes, especially in this age group, it's hopeful that they can have a room, get a roommate, or find a friend or aunt that's willing to let them live with them. Like, I think that without us actually having housing that they could move into, we're still talking about unstable housing post a project like this. But it's a very, I'm saying it's a great need. It's just how we talk about it.
Well, I appreciate that, and I think that we've talked about that, right? I mean, so from the shelter, where do people go? You know, what's available? You know, we talk about transitional housing beyond that, and what we return to the continuum of housing, which is now, you know, permanently affordable housing, which is now basically affordable housing being out of the reach of many families, multifamily in particular, and of course, for sale housing is really out of the reach of a lot of families now. So I think that that's just it in terms of our expectations, when you're bringing up the issue of expectations, right? So we provide opportunities for people, but they don't necessarily take advantage of those opportunities. We want to provide the best opportunities for people, right? Based on what we know and what we think is, you know, is the right thing to do, I guess, as people. I don't know. I sometimes as you mentioned, you know, we think that, you know, by providing one service, that all of a sudden people are like, whoa, you know, this is great, and I'm off to, you know, I fixed my problems, and I'm off to, you know, be a, you know, just like everybody else, you know, kind of thing. And it doesn't work that way, you know. And so sometimes there's a lot of disappointment. You know, put a lot of effort into folks, and just like we've all had family where we have family with addiction problems. And like, how many times does it take for people to recover, or for them to, you know, sometimes it's the 7th time, sometimes it's the 8th time. And it's just the patience and the resources, and it's exhausting for families. So I like the idea that we also, you know, as people who are trying to move forward and to address an issue, because we're not solving anything, I think we're addressing things, we're creating opportunities for people. We have these strategies for people, that we also, you know, have to cut each other some slack, because, you know, there's a lot we can do, and there's, you know, but at the same time, we also have to be patient with one another when people are trying to move forward and provide some of these services as well. And it's not perfect. So I just wanted to say that, because I think that you brought up a good thing, Commissioner, about expectations, for example, which I think is important.
Go ahead, Carol.
So, Mayor and Commission, I do think, Council, I do think this is such a great example of why the committees were set up as they are. So we've got UNM, city, county, coming together to think about these high impact strategies where we have gaps in our community and we can make a really big difference. And the other thing about, again, I think how it's working is, as we talked about some of our key community partners like YDI, like New Day, and they're sitting there with all of us to figure out, hey, what are these high impact strategies? How could it make a difference? So I do want to say that I think the way our model is, the next step would be, so the first step was what we got the presentation of this high impact strategy to address a gap, and the need is clearly stated. that our city, county, UNM leaders in the housing continuum continuum committee, I think I've got that right, come together to say, wow, city, what could you do? County, what can you do? And UNM, what can you do? So we can look at that together, because as we know, the HCC, we're not the decision makers, but together those three entities could come together and bring that recommendation back to the HCC for further discussion. It just seems like such a great opportunity. So just wanted to highlight what that next step is as we move forward, and hopefully this could be front and center on our August agenda, because I believe we are not meeting in July. So just thank you. Just all great discussion and very excited.
Okay, great points. Thanks, everybody. Other questions or comments on this? Yes, Julie?
Really quick, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to offer another suggestion for a resource is that young adult court, Judge Cindy Leos. So maybe, so she may not, you all could probably be, or we could be a resource for her, but maybe just to kind of, as you're gathering information, she's great and real passionate. And so we're working with her at the CARES campus so that we can have a place for that population. So I just wanted to throw that out there for you guys. Thank you.
Great partner in this, thanks. Okay, other comments or questions on this? Okay, well, we're about at our time, and we have, in terms of next steps, of course, there's multiple items we outlined, I think, with respect to GMC. And as Carol mentioned, we can pick up some of this actually at our next meeting with respect to youth housing in that continuum, hopefully in August. And then, of course, the subcommittees, I think, are on their own schedule of when they're meeting and so forth during the summer. Now, I think what is kind of a notice, the chairman duty or chairperson duties of this committee will rotate. So county, it's your turn. And so let the group know who will be chair. And the county gets to pick. So it's up to the county. And correspondingly, we have set a date at least for the next meeting so we can plan around it, but acknowledge that, you know, the new chair can, excuse me, do the rest of the dates after that. So we're planning on Tuesday, August 10th, as that'll be the next meeting, which, as is, you know, normal for city council, and I think county too, usually July, we just kind of skip the different, whether it's city council and so forth in July. So this is just sort of in cycle with that. So we'll reconvene in August on the 10th, and whenever, at least 3 days before, so someone tell everyone else who's chairing. And let me, I think, maybe just close by saying that, you know, I want to echo what Carol said and just thank everyone for making this committee, I think, be very productive and fruitful in its first year. So it took, you know, obviously going through the Board of Regents, the County Commission, and City Council to actually establish this in a formal way. And I think that process alone was very important in terms of commitment to collaboration in a formal way. And so, and then really the work that was done through all the committees, and the continuum being a good example. I just want to thank everyone for essentially, you know, putting in all that real work in between, you know, our sort of monthly check-ins that we'd have with this group. But I think we've moved a long way. And if you think about where we were this time last year, I think central New Mexico, Bernalillo County, is in a very, very different spot, both in thought and intention and in action with respect to the unsheltered community. So much, much more work to be done. But I think we actually have honored the spirit of this, the point of this committee over the last year. So I want to thank everyone for making that a reality. Okay, so I think with that, we'll do a motion to adjourn. Did you want to add anything?
Just that Commissioner Barboa, my phone number is going in the chat, so don't exit yet. Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
We'll connect you up.
Yeah.
We don't need a committee to
No,
get Mr.
no.
Barcola Carol's phone number.
No, we like to talk. It's all good.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, and a second?
Second.
All right, well, we stand adjourned and we will see everyone, I'm sure, all around town, but if not, we'll see you in August. Take care, thank you.
Did she